Thanks everybody for being here. We're all very excited to do a first table reading of your new play, Acceptance. What would you like your actors to know about in terms of background?
Oh boy.
This play?
Well, whatever thoughts you've had in your life about death, and I think our thoughts about death change as we, get older, but some thoughts stay the same. And what your thoughts are, what your feelings are about death, and how you can take those thoughts and inform your performance, I guess. And then ultimately, I think for all actors to have as much fun and as much leeway as you can, as much creativity with the part. Once it's, the words are in front of you, they're yours to, take them in whatever direction you choose.
Now, is this something you've been thinking a lot about
Death.
lately?
Yes. It used to be, death would occupy about 95% of my waking hours. Now it's much more.
I guess it is the most universal. We were born and we die. We all have that in common, I guess.
I really think with advancements with stem cells, et cetera, that the idea of living to be 160, 180 is not going to be that extreme. And so this is kind of a 21st century view. Someday I think will be a nostalgic view of back in the day when people still died.
The good old days. We shouldn't be laughing. This is a serious subject.
Yeah, but I think that's part and parcel of it. I found in writing this, there are some points where, gee, a joke would really go well here. And so I've tried to put some, not real knee slappers, but moments where the tension breaks a little bit with some humor.
As is real life.
Yes.
It happens in real life often.
Yes.
And for a lot of us, those kinds of situations do initiate sort of a laughter response.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been in a funeral, sitting there and dying to break out and laugh?
Of course, yeah.
From the nervousness and tension.
Yeah.
And what about the characters themselves? It's a story of a grandmother and granddaughter. Is that a certain dynamic relationship that you've looked at before? Or?
Yeah, there are some...
skipping a generation?
Well, I'm approaching that generation myself. I don't know if I've landed there yet, but I was informed a little bit of older women that I knew, my grandmother's age, my great-aunt's age, women who were, former school teachers and very prim and proper, but how they came to deal with the idea of death. That death wasn't something that polite people spoke about, so you had to kind of keep it to yourself. And then how there was another generation that was always seen as somehow, butting in, and how could you politely and appropriately steer them so that they didn't feel like they were being, looked down upon, that they weren't seen as being coarse, when these older women felt that they were being coarse, but that the power of love was there, that there was a genuine power of love, both for the older woman towards her granddaughter and for the granddaughter towards her grandmother. And that was the, not to sound corny, but that was the kind of the thematic piece that ran through this, was love. That these two women of different ages and different stages in life genuinely loved each other and could, because of that love, let their guards down and be honest about the most basic questions. And is there a God? Do you believe in God? What do you think of life after death? What does this stuff mean?
And is it that separation of that generation in those years that allow grandparents and their grandchildren to maybe connect in a way that would be impossible?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That very often we see the closeness skipping a generation. And there's something about, when you hit your 60s and 70s, that you can look back at all the areas where you screwed up when you were in your 20s and 30s, and you have another opportunity. And that's a great thing. That I think one of the things that we realize, that as we get older, we don't have unlimited opportunities, but we still have opportunities. So even though there are fewer, if you can make more of them, they're more valuable. But you still have those opportunities. They're still there.
And our actors, this is your chance to ask the playwright anything. Did you have any questions for him before we begin the table read?
No, but I'd like to thank you for giving me my first official grandmother role.
Yes! I don't think she meant that.
No, I
did. Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're obviously way too young.
Oh, yes. Yeah, right.
I thought you came in for the part of the teenager.
Yes, absolutely.
Patty, do you have any questions for Nick?
No, but this is also, once again, my first time to try and pretend to be 3 years older than I actually am. It's
Okay.
difficult.
Yeah.
So the specific age was, I missed that, there is a
15.
15.
15,
Okay.
yeah.
And I know you're used to playing usually much older parts.
I'm afraid not.
Do you know any 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, people around that age? And
Not really.
How about your grandparents? Do you have grandparents nearby that you have,
Yeah,
and do you enjoy those relationships?
yeah.
You're lucky.
Wonderful. I have a feeling that someday we're going to look back on this performance and say, there she is at age, she wasn't even 12 when she did that.
I have to say, when I read it, I found myself like, oh, I want to ask her why you made this choice, why you made that choice, and that to me is always a good sign of a piece that I'm interested in doing. You know, where I would have written it. You know, you made some decisions that the whole God thing. It's like, whoa, wow, how am I going to be with that? It's good. You know, it's stuff, and I'm sure there was a lot of thought that went into that. You know,
Pretty much a
just
throwaway.
really,
No, in all honesty, back and forth and back and forth
Yeah.
and back and forth and
Yeah.
back and forth, you know, the way it goes.
Yeah.
How many drafts did it take to nail this down?
I don't know. Probably 7 or 8.
Wow.
And going from, maybe 20 some pages to under 20 pages to 15 pages to 10 pages to 7 pages. If I really worked it well, it'd be about a paragraph.
Well, it's a small subject. You really don't need more than a page or two.
Death, God, yeah.
So is there anything you want to set the scene in any way, or should we just jump in? And
I'd say just jump in. It's titled The Acceptance because of the 5 stages of coping with death and dying, starting with denial and ending with acceptance. And this is, I think, a little take on the last stage of coping with death and dying.
And that comes out of psychology, the 5
Kubler-Ross was written about that, the 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then finally acceptance.
Amazing book. I mean,
Yeah,
that book is, and you can use that book for so many, not just death, end of a relationship, the going into a new phase in your life, middle age, whatever. It works for so much.
Yeah.
Even my children have sort of seen that too when they, something they don't want to happen, and it's going to happen and it's inevitable. They still sort of goes through those same stages. Very, very helpful.
Some would say that period of age 13 to 15 is a period of mourning, of grieving the death of childhood.
Yeah.
And then, I'm sorry, and then whatever the next stage is.
Yeah.
So can we expect 4 more plays, 1 on each stage?
Denial is already
Done.
out there. Yeah, denial is already out
Well,
there.
that would be fun to do.
Yeah. I doubt it.
All right, everybody ready? All right, here we go. Margaret has just finished packing her suitcase. She appears weary and sore. She sits briefly to gather her strength. There is a knock at the door. Jenny pokes her head in and speaks.
Nancy?
Oh, yes, dear, come in, please.
Jen enters slowly.
Mom said I have to talk to you before you leave.
Oh,
You know what happened with Dean?
it's Dean, the boy who...
Yeah.
I see. Well, you don't have to say anything, honey. Not if you don't want to.
I'm not going to see him anymore.
Why?
Because he's a jerk, and what he did was totally ignorant.
I never would have known. Your mother found out when she was putting the medicine in my weekly pill container. Oh, I could never keep track of that stuff.
Mom thought I did it.
No, I never thought you did, honey.
When you and Mom went to Uncle Bart's, Dean came over and before we were going to go out, I went to get some weed out of my room.
Weed?
Marijuana.
Oh.
And I came downstairs and he was like, in your room and, going through your stuff.
I see.
And I asked him what he was doing and he just kind of smiled. Weird.
It's all right, dear.
Mom totally freaked.
I know. I'm sorry.
She said that I took those pills, but I didn't.
Oh, I know, dear.
Margaret comes to Jenny and takes her hand. Jenny withdraws her hand self-consciously and turns her back to her grandmother.
And then Mom said that I was being really cruel because those pills are so you won't be in pain, and like they're really hard to replace. And now you're really going to be,
She tries desperately to keep from sobbing.
you're really going to be in a lot of pain.
Oh, honey.
Again she comes to comfort her granddaughter and puts her hand on her shoulder. Jenny again reacts defensively, walking away from Margaret. Margaret accepts this and sits in her chair by the bed and pats the bed gently with her hand.
Come sit with me, dear.
Jenny sits on the far corner of the bed. She keeps her head bowed, not making eye contact, and trying desperately not to show her emotions.
So, are you going to be able to replace those pills?
I already have. Bart, I mean your Uncle Bart, was able to get some samples from a friend who's a drug representative, whatever that is.
How did that work?
I don't know. Maybe he got them from Dean?
Margaret looks at Jenny after she has made the joke, hoping that Jenny will laugh. Jenny giggles in spite of herself. Margaret appears relieved.
Magsy,
Yes, dear.
why do you have to take pills like that?
It's my disease. The only treatment was trying to kill off every trace of it in my body. So, to do that, they had to practically kill me to kill off my disease. Then they realized they were doing a better job at killing me than they were at killing my disease. So they stopped the treatment.
Did the disease come back?
Oh, yes.
So, what are they going to do?
Well, they're giving up on fighting the disease, and now they're trying to keep me out of pain.
But then, how will they stop the disease?
They can't. They can only try to keep me pain-free for the time that I have left.
For the first time, Jenny looks squarely into her grandmother's eyes.
Does that mean you're going to die?
Well, we're all going to die, honey. But yes, I'm going to die.
Do you know when?
Next Thursday, 4 o'clock.
Really? Oh, duh.
Jenny looks again at Margaret, who is smiling at her. She quickly avoids eye contact and starts to go.
I'm glad you were able to replace your pills.
Me too.
Do you want me to do anything?
What do you mean?
Jenny looks down.
Well, you know, like, do you want me to hug you or something?
Oh, my goodness, that would be wonderful, but you don't have to. Not if it would feel awkward.
I just don't want to hurt you.
I understand.
Magsy, why are you leaving?
We all thought that it would be best for me to be in a place where I could be safe if things, well, if they took a turn for the worst.
Mom said you were leaving because of me.
Oh, my dear darling girl.
She gets up to come to Jenny, but realizing how fragile Jenny is, she opts instead to sit by her on the bed. Again, Margaret puts her hand very gently on Jenny's shoulder. Jenny does not cringe.
I treasure every moment I can spend with you, honey. Oh, you have to know that.
Jenny controls her sobbing.
Are you going back to the hospital?
No, dear. I'm going to hospice. It's much different.
Is that like a place where people go to die?
I hope not, but, well, it is a place that helps you to prepare for death when it comes, and to accept death.
I don't get it.
Neither do
Do you believe in God?
Not really.
Neither do I. But how do you accept death when, like, you don't believe in God or, you know, ain't heaven and angels and shit, I mean, stuff?
I haven't figured that one out just yet. But I do have some ideas on how you can accept death.
Me?
Yes, it's realizing that all that corny stuff that people have always said is actually true, only in a slightly different way.
You mean, like, when people say that, you know, that you'll be up there looking down on us and smiling?
No, not exactly. It's more like that I'll be right here, living on with all of you in memory.
What do you mean?
Well, as long as anyone remembers me, then in some funny way I'm living on.
Oh, like when someone says you've got your grandmother's eyes.
Yes, exactly. Or your grandmother's smile, or why, you must get that from Max.
I get that all the time.
Wonderful! And I'm not even dead yet.
Can you have visitors at hospice?
Yes.
So, could I visit you there?
Oh, yes, dear, I would love that.
Cool. Would I have to come with Mom?
No, not if it was inconvenient. You're grown up enough to come by yourself if you like. It's not far. You can see for yourself if you'd like to come with us.
Okay. Anything you want me to do?
Well, maybe you could take my suitcase out to the car, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Jenny takes the suitcase and bounces toward the door, almost like a little girl.
I'll be along in just a second.
Okay.
And Jenny,
Yeah.
you are such a dear.
Thanks.
Jenny exits with suitcase. Margaret sits quietly, in obvious pain for an instant, then stands and follows her granddaughter. Lights fade. End of play. I like the fact that you didn't have your head buried in your own script, your own play. I mean, you sat there as almost like an audience of one,
Yeah.
and you let it wash over you, and you weren't checking for enunciation. And I have to say, we've done a lot of these now, and for the most part, most of the playwrights have been following along.
Oh.
It's just an interesting observation. I think what you did is the proper way to
Thank you.
take it all in.
Yeah, well, that's the great thing, nothing's expected of me, I can just be entertained by this, and I was very much drawn into the whole experience. Yeah.
Were you surprised by the effect that hearing the words out loud in between these two exceptional actors?
What I liked about it, was that it was a very soft presentation. Both of you were very soft. It wasn't jarring, and that was newer in some of the readings that I've had in the past, and I like that.
And that quiet, I guess I was the
Very
second
quiet,
audience
yeah.
member, and it drew me in, that quiet
Yeah.
and the
Well,
peacefulness.
It's so interesting that people say, because I notice I'm soft, and I'm not a soft person. I'm a very,
We noticed.
and so,
That was the surprise.
the conversation after the camera is not right for you, I think. But that sense of, with your first note right here, she appears weary and sore. And the interesting thing with the table read is that, we're here and we're not going to be touching each other and we're just reading. And yet, if I can make these words real for me, I have to at least feel the emotion, even if I'm not following stage directions. So immediately when I almost wanted to say, can you hear me? Like being loud enough. And then your response was so, I'm glad
At the
that you
same
had
level,
that
yeah.
response.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah. And it's great when people have prepared. Sometimes it's sort of taken for granted that when you write something and you can have someone else read it, that, oh, lucky me, I can hear my words read by someone, and I can, be more critical and have a better understanding. But if someone hasn't read it or isn't prepared, it's no help whatsoever. In fact, it can be demoralizing. And this was not demoralizing. This was very encouraging. This is really, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, this is a moment in the, in the theater for me. I'm taking, being able to witness a very, very effective, very, very nice presentation.
After a reading like that, we've talked before about what directors do to your plays, and with the blocking and the movement and everything, you could almost see a director being influenced to scale this, right back to the bone and not let them do much more than reach across and have physical contact. But anything else would be kind of a distraction.
Yes.
How was it for you, sort of being in that, death and reading?
Well, I mean, it's a new thing for me since all of the work these plays I've done are always like major and family and all this. This was family, but it's like the other side of it.
The other side of it.
I think it's good that I got to get into that.
You did a wonderful job. Wonderful read.
I always also wanted to say that, to me, this is such an honor to know that I'm reading something that's completely new and that you are trusting. So for me, not to be prepared just feels like, no, it takes a lot of courage. I mean, I went to that when I first met you, that Playwright meeting, thinking I really want to have the courage to do this, and I will one day. I'm not there yet. So it's sort of given the rest of us permission to try the waters too, and I realized that if it's something that I really, really felt connected to, was important to me, I'd write something and put myself out there. But damn right, I want these actors to be prepared. It's scary enough having your stuff out there.
Oh, absolutely. And then open to inspection and criticism. Yeah. So you at least want someone to really put their best effort out there, and it shows. It always shows. So I really appreciate that.
Can I ask, I think I'm allowed one or two dumb questions
Sure.
at every taping.
Yeah.
Did you agonize over the illness for the grandmother, or was that a big decision, or did that...
Well, I didn't want to say cancer.
Right.
So that was, if there was some kind of wrestling, was how do I say this without saying cancer?
Using that word.
Yeah, and then I took death out at one point, and then I put death back in about are you going to die?
Why did you think that using the word cancer would be not appropriate, or?
Not that it would be inappropriate, but that it would divert from the attention of the play. That cancer has a power. Some words have power.
The audience would just go off in their heads on cancer. That sucks.
Yeah. As opposed to tell me more, and that they're giving me this treatment, and the treatment is they have to practically kill me off to kill off my disease. That they were doing a better job, and at some point they're thinking, there's something just absolutely barbaric. I haven't got a better idea. I wish I did, but there is something barbaric about how we do, treat people this way. And to try to explain that to someone who is not too young, but not maybe quite at that stage where they can understand perfectly what that person is going through. And also the test of that woman who's saying, to herself, she says, I don't get it. It's like, I don't either.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually one of my favorite moments, that coming together, and that, in some ways I'm no wiser than you, that we both have this sort of wisdom.
Yeah.
It's interesting that I reacted, I was envious of this relationship. What a wonderful thing that I don't think everybody has, or experiences in their life where someone they respect and love, who's wise, explains to them some of these, nuances of death. It was. Could we all be that gently tutored?
Yeah.
Well, and that line, when she talks about, grandmother carrying on, your grandmother's smile, you must get that from Maxie in that moment of, I get that all the time. That I could actually hear her say that with that smile, it doesn't have to just be said when I'm gone, when the grandmother's gone.
And, I'm not even dead.
And I think that's why a lot of people are having more of that, the whole new conversation movement, or that encouraging people to have that conversation. It's like we have these amazing memorial services, and they say all these great things. Well, I want a memorial service before I die. I want to know exactly what everyone
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
gonna say
that's
it.
a great idea.
You know, it's
Yeah,
just.
sure. Yeah.
One of the unseen characters that I think you had managed in just 2 or 3 sentences to, more than outline for us was the mother, between these two.
Yes, yes.
And we learned her reaction to the Bart affair.
Yeah,
But then the wonderful line about, can I go visit you at hospice,
yeah,
but does mom have to come?
yeah.
I mean, just those 2 little tidbits, and we understand the typical teen,
Sure.
mother kind of relationship is not going too well right now.
No, it's a little rough.
And if we can eliminate her from the process, we'll be better off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't like Bart, we don't like the mother.
Bart's got some issues.
How are we gonna get her away from Bart? That's gonna be our
She's already sent Bart on his way.
Okay,
To
that's
her
permanent.
credit, yeah.
She's got it, she's smart.
Yeah, if her
she
mother
needed
had
it.
told her that she probably,
yeah.
she might stay with Bart, but she has made the decision, no, I told Bart to take a hike.
And if Bart had taken mother's pills, it might not have had the same impact. But
That's
it was Maxie's pills, these pills that are, stopping Max to have pain. You don't want me to have pain. I mean, it's
Yes,
just so,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
You probably wouldn't mind your mother having a little pain.
Well, mother's pills might have been a lot different, too.
Right.
Not that I'm saying anything.
So what, did you have any other comments or observations? Or?
Well, just how enjoyable it was for me. I know I'd like to be able to say, hey, why don't you try this or why don't you try that? I would be a terrible director in that way. I mean, I think, not to exaggerate, but there's something about perfection that you don't really have to shoot for it. It's like, yeah, you know what, there's not much improving on that. You're never going to be able to duplicate it exactly. So wherever it comes the next time, that, I mean, I don't know exactly how it started, maybe with Aristotle, maybe, maybe before that, but the idea like, well, let's take a look at how that whole thing went over, what we liked about it and what we did. It doesn't really go on in much, many other aspects of life, you see someone, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I like that you did greet me, but the question was trying revisions.
Well, that raises an interesting question for our actors. Can you imagine doing 100 performances of this play?
Oh God!
And would you be able to bring the same energy and level every night?
No, you can't. You can't ever. You need your audience. I mean, that's why, like you said, if you were to say, "We'll try it this way," chances are then my focus is on trying to do what you want, and then it's going to be lost somewhere else. I mean, it's different, for something like this. So I love that you're able to, because the next time we do it, it won't be the same.
Yes.
I mean, it just won't be.
It's impossible.
You can't repeat it, and and you said there's no perfect way. Well, there's no perfect way to die either.
Yeah.
But we're coming as down close as we can here. What better way to be honest, transparent, give it our all, end with love and forgiveness. And the same with this. When I take this, I'm going to do the best I can.
Yeah.
And yes, we can always maybe do better. But
Yeah.
the bottom line is, was this real? Did it come from here?
Yeah.
And I felt something. Did you feel something? We've never met. We haven't even had a discussion. I thought we should, play basketball for an hour or something for us to get to know each other. But in my state, I should be playing basketball. But we didn't. We jumped right into it. And what a remarkable thing for somebody your age to be able to do that. You've never met me before. We just came in and we did it. And it's a wonderful opportunity.
I'm guessing that you liked and admired Margaret as you read the script. Is that a fair assumption?
Oh, well, I mean, totally. I mean, I've been through this, very recently, sat with somebody that actually, was cancer, and it's an amazing, amazing honor to be with somebody, at the end of their years, because what have they got to lose? So there's no doubt that everything that comes out of Margaret's mouth is genuine and authentic, and her granddaughter gets to witness that. It's an amazing gift, and to be, when I was with my, as my mother-in-law, who's very much like my mother, I was with her right up until that last moment, and that's something that is really a beautiful thing. And the more we do this, and the more we have the conversation, and we be less afraid. How many people just feel like they never really totally got to say what they needed to say? And I remember asking my mother. I had just been to an amazing memorial service that was so beautiful and perfect, and before she even knew, this was my other mother-in-law, I have two mother-in-laws, she arranged the whole service, and she knew exactly what she wanted. It was the most beautiful service because we knew without a doubt this is what she wanted. What an amazing gift to give to all of us. We gave it, and I remember telling my mother, you know, I said, you know, I've got to say, I know you're going to die someday, and how do you want to be remembered? You know, can we talk about this? And my dad's like, we don't talk about things like that here. And my mother says, oh yes we do, Derek. You know, about time someone's going to talk about it. And all of a sudden you open up this, you know, and, you know, a few years later my mother got dementia. Within a year she didn't know who I was. I hadn't have had that conversation, you know, the same thing here. We hadn't have had that conversation, and all of a sudden she found out, oh, you know, your grandmother's gone. Oh, I mean, just, you know, every moment just so precious to connect in that way, you know.
And that contributes to that sense of wanting to make a deal. You know, if only I could meet with that person one more time. If only I could go back in time. If only they could have taken that person instead of that person. Take a year off of my life or whatever. You know, and the realization, no, you can't make deals.
So is that the second act of this? We're going to do that for you.
Yeah, that's right. Let's make a deal.
The mother's going to say all the things she didn't get to say.
It's going to be Bart, Uncle Bart.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody feel that they've had enough of a read to go up and do the formal read?
I don't feel the need to go through it again because I think it will be fresher if we don't, but I'm also, if you would like to do it again.
I think we should just go and do it.
The guest room of Jenny's home. A bed, an end table or bureau, and a chair with a suitcase on it. Jenny is a 15-year-old female. Margaret, aka Magsy, is Jenny's grandmother, and she is close to death. Margaret has just finished packing her suitcase. She appears weary and sore. She sits briefly to gather her strength. There is a knock at the door. Jenny pokes her head in.
Maxie?
Oh, yes, dear. Come in, please.
Mom said I have to talk to you before you leave.
Oh?
You know, about what happened with Dean.
Oh, is Dean the boy who...
Yeah.
Ah, I see. Well, you don't have to say anything, honey. Not if you don't want to.
I'm not gonna see him anymore.
Why?
Because he's a jerk, and what he did was totally ignorant.
I never would have known. Your mother found out when she was putting the medicine in my weekly pill container. I could never...
Does everybody feel that they've had enough of a read to go up and do the formal read? Did you want to go through it again? Do you want to just go straight to it?
I don't feel the need to go through it again because I think it will be fresher if we don't, but I'm also, if you would like to do it again.
How do you feel about it?
I think we should just go and do it. You know, marijuana.
Oh.
And I came downstairs and he was like in your room and like, you know, going through your stuff.
I see.
And I asked him what he was doing and he just kind of smiled. Weird.
That's all right, dear.
Mom totally freaked.
I know. I'm sorry.
She said that I took those pills, but I didn't.
Oh, I know, dear.
And then Mom said that I was really being cruel because those pills are so you won't be in pain. And, like, they're really hard to replace, and now you're really gonna be in a lot of pain.
Oh, honey. Come sit with me.
So, are you going to be able to replace those pills?
I already have. Your Uncle Bart was able to get some samples from a friend of his who's a drug representative. Whatever that is.
How did that work?
I don't know. Maybe he got them from Dean.
Maxie?
Yes, dear.
Why do you have to take pills like that?
It's my disease. The only treatment was to try to kill off every trace of it in my body, so to do that, they had to practically kill me. To kill off my disease, well, then they realized that they were doing a better job at killing me than they were at killing my disease. So they stopped the treatment.
Did the disease come back?
Oh, yes.
So, like, What are they gonna do?
Well, they've given up on fighting the disease. Now they're just trying to keep me out of pain.
But how will they stop the disease?
They can't. They can only try to keep me pain-free for the time that I have left.
Does that mean you're going to die?
Oh, we're all going to die, honey. But yes, I'm going to die.
Do you know when?
Next Thursday, 4 o'clock.
Really? Oh, duh. I'm glad you were able to replace your pills.
Oh, me too.
Do you want me to do anything?
What do you mean?
Well, you know, like, do you want me to hug you or something?
Oh my goodness, that would be wonderful. But you don't have to, not if it makes you feel awkward.
I just don't want to hurt you.
I understand.
Maxie, why are you leaving?
Well, we all thought it would be best for me to be in a place where I could be safe if things took a turn for the worse.
Mom said you were leaving because of me.
Oh, my dear darling girl. I treasure every moment I can spend with you, honey. You have to know that.
Are you going back to the hospital?
No, dear. I'm going to hospice. It's much different.
Is that like a place where people go to die?
I hope not. But it's a place that helps you prepare for death when it comes and to accept death.
I don't get it.
Neither do I.
Do you believe in God?
Not really.
Neither do I. But how do you accept death when, like, you don't believe in God or, you know, heaven and angels and shit? I mean, stuff.
I haven't figured out that one yet. But I do have some ideas on how you can accept death.
Me?
Yes. It's realizing that corny stuff that people have always said is actually true, only in a slightly different way.
You mean like when people say that, you know, that you'll be up there looking down on us and smiling?
Not exactly. It's more that I'll be right here living on with you, in memory.
What do you mean?
Oh, well, as long as anyone remembers me, then in some funny way I'm living on.
Oh, like when someone says you have your grandmother's eyes.
Yes, exactly. Or your grandmother's smile, or, why, you must get that from Maxie.
I get that a lot.
That's wonderful. And I'm not even dead yet.
Can you have visitors in hospice?
Yes.
So, can I visit you then?
Oh, yes, dear. I would love that.
Cool. But I have to come with Mom?
Oh, not if it was inconvenient. You're grown up enough to come by yourself if you like. It's not far. You can see for yourself if you'd like to come with us.
Okay.
Well,
Anything you want me to do?
well, maybe you could take out my suitcase to the car, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'll be along in just a second.
Okay.
And, Jenny,
Yeah?
you are such a dear.
Thanks.
Margaret sits quietly, in obvious pain for an instant, then stands and follows her granddaughter. End of play.